All right, and we should be live. Welcome back, State of Decay 2 survivors. This is your boy Congrexes Prime coming at you with another episode of the Prime Directive. This will be Prime Directive number 8, and we're going to be talking about Update 29. Now, this is a very different Prime Directive. But before we get into that, I want to thank my guest stars, Bunndee GameZ and my boy Guru for taking the invite in. And you guys want to say what's up before we get going here?
Off you go, Bundy.
Okay, I'll go. Yeah, guys. Happy to be here again doing another Prime Directive. I don't know why he keep inviting me back, but I guess that's a good thing. It's always good to be here. Let's get it going. We live this time.
Yeah. Guru, what's up, man?
G'day. How you doing? Hey, Congrexes. Hey, Bundy. It's great to be here. I love this game, and I love talking about State of Decay too. So it's actually quite cool to have a forum to talk about the ideas, the game, get people's chat, understand how people are looking at the game and how it's developing, because it's been doing that a lot recently. So, yeah, I'm pumped. I'm pumped.
You're pumped. Man, it's good to have you, man. I've been wanting to reach out to you for a minute, so I'm glad that I was brave enough to do it and get you here. Now, this Prime Directive, like I said, it's a little different than most of all the other Prime Directives. I want to go ahead and say what's up to Steve Price. What's up, my dude? And Ivory, how you doing? Welcome to the chat. This Prime Directive, like I said, it's a little different. We normally do a video format where I do a kind of like a live chat, but not a live video, and we do like a premiere style. But this is kind of like the way I've always wanted to do this thing. So this Prime Directives format's a little different. We're gonna have 3 questions. The 3 questions are in the descriptions below if you guys want to follow with that. Also, the link to Guru's YouTube channel and Bundee's channel are there as well. They're both content creators. And Guru's like, I want to say fresh to the scene, but he's making waves. So he's making some good content, and I can't wait to showcase our playthrough here that we did together as well. In the background, there's some State of Decay going on, but I am not playing the game live. I am interacting with chat, and this is what the Prime Directive is going to be. We're going to ask some questions. We'll go round robin. We're going to start with our guest star Guru first. And then once Bundy goes and I go, we say our piece. We're going to look through chat and see what you guys want to say about it. And we're going to bring your comments and your concerns and your questions up to the lamplight for a little bit. And then we'll move on to the second phase, which will be another question, which is also in the descriptions below. And then we'll do the same thing. This time will be Bundy, then me, then Guru. And then we'll open the floor up to chat. So we're going to do that 3 times. And at the end of that, we're going to have open the floor up to Guru. He's going to ask a question to myself or Bundy or to all of us or even to chat or whatever, however he wants to do about anything related to the Prime Directive. And then Bundy will do the same thing, open the floor up to chat, and then we will, everything up. So that's going to be the format. It's on the table right there, guys. Whoa, member for 12 months. 8 Cup 49.19. Thank you, my dude. I appreciate that. How you doing, 8 Cup? Welcome to the stream. Oh man, Z. I can't say your name right, so I'm not gonna attempt it. How you doing, my dude? How you doing? Welcome to the stream, my dudes. Appreciate the interactions. Again, YouTube wants to see interaction, guys, so I don't really want to ask too much about it. But if you guys don't mind smashing that like button, dropping a comment below, and interacting with chat, it's gonna take this. Help propel this stream after this is all said and done. So, anyway, you guys ready to rock and roll, man?
Hey, I gotta say my hellos first. What's up,
Go.
Steve, A Cup, Z, and Ivory? You've been talking for the past 5 minutes, my dude. I didn't want to interrupt you.
No. Yeah, my bad, man. Go ahead.
Right. How you
Welcome,
going?
guys.
How you going,
Welcome,
chat?
welcome.
Hey, Cap. How are you, man?
All right. So, let's get the show on the road, man. We're going to get this started. We're going to start with Guru. Guru, What are your thoughts on update 29?
Update 29. So, honestly, I think you've got to look at update 29 in the context of all the updates which have come before it. Since probably update 25, I think Undead Labs has taken a really smart and sensible approach to how they've released updates. I think they've backed off from just throwing mud at a wall to see what sticks. I think they're listening really well to their communities these days. They're listening to feedback. They're seeking it out. And they're being really careful to try and not release any content which is buggy, glitchy, or in any way sort of detracts from the game. Now, they're still quite keen, and they're still putting out some mechanical changes which can divide the community. Plague territories, for instance, the infestation changes which are upcoming, all of those sorts of things. But I think this approach has really worked well for them, and they've increased the pace. So I'll start off by saying that all the updates recently have been awesome, and their approach, even if you don't like every single addition that they've made, is a really good one, and is a good roadmap for the future. On update 29 itself, like we're talking those graphical changes. They are awesome, and I'm really glad that they were able to get these put into the main game by Valkyrie Entertainment before Valkyrie moved on, because of course they've been purchased by Sony, which means that they will not be able to work on State of Decay 2 for the future. So it's a bit of a parting gift from Valkyrie to put these changes in. And they've really reinvented the old maps. Like my personal preference in maps, I'll just take you to Mega Valley. Mega Valley was my least favorite map because I always found it kind of rather plain and not as interesting as the other maps. But now with the graphical changes that they've put in there, wow, I am gagging to get back into Mega Valley and have a look around. And I think a lot of different players will have this experience when they revisit their own personal, favorite maps or least favorite maps. I think those graphical changes were important in keeping the game relevant and important for keeping the game competitive with the new zombie shooters, which are starting to proliferate streaming the YouTube channels as well, because there's a lot of those coming out. The field of view sliders, I think, is great that they've made it a little more accessible to players who were getting motion sickness. To be honest, that had never occurred to me that could even happen. So putting that in, it's a fairly standard feature for a lot of games, but I like how they've done it. They've actually put a bit of effort into it, and that you've got a 30% or a 30-point shift from the default, either tighter in or further out. And they've allowed these increments to be in 1-point increments, so you can really tailor it. It's not just, this is default, this is close in, and this is further out. 3 options to pick from, which may not deliver. It actually lets you tweak those. So I really like those changes. I've played about with them a little bit. They don't make too much difference to me, but I haven't gone too much outside the default, to be honest. I think possibly a lot of people, well, at least some of the community are looking at update 29 and will be thinking that it didn't go far enough, particularly around the mechanics, the infestation mechanics, and multiplayer, forever communities, all that sort of stuff, which may be upcoming. But I think update is 29 is really good because what they've put out really works, and that pretty much did everything that they said that it would do when it came out. So in terms of like 10 out of 10 for an update, maybe the content didn't deliver 10 out of 10 on terms of, reinventing the game or fixing every bug there was in the game, but it's certainly 10 out of 10 in terms of what they said that they were delivering, what they have delivered. So that would be my view.
Man, you gave it a 10 out of 10, Guru. You've been very generous. You're very generous.
I am very biased. I love this game, and I like what Undead Labs are attempting to do with it, listening to their audiences, always trying to continually improve within the constraints that they have. We've got to remember that, the majority of their team is now working on State of Decay 3, so they've got a small team. I mean, they can't afford to actually release anything, which they will then have to spend time going back to debug in a production environment. They've got to get all that kind of stuff right, which is why they're reaching out to the community for testing, why they've got the PTR. There's absolutely nothing wrong with update 29. All I'd say is it doesn't go far enough, but anything which is sort of not, they haven't released with update 29 is probably still in the works for a future update. So, considering State of Decay 2 is 4 years old, I'm happy to take what I'm given. maybe that's a Kiwi personality as well. I don't know. We don't cry out much. I'm really happy with it. I think it really enhances the game, and they're on the right track. We're on the right path.
Definitely. Bunndee,
Man,
what are
I
your
should have
thoughts?
took notes on everything Guru said because there's a lot of things I could touch on. And some of the things we mentioned as early as the latest Prime Directive when we talked about the importance of the PTR,
Hmm.
how it encourages them to listen to what the community and to get the feedback. So incorporating that public test run was a real good thing for them to do. The Valkyrie thing, man, we had a conversation about that.
Yes, we did. We had
How?
we did
I'm
it.
gonna say,
We had a deep
how did
conversation.
they allow Sony to purchase Valkyrie out from under them? How did they allow that to happen? I wonder about that. But anyway, that's going to be a big loss to them, considering what that team was able to do on the limited resources. Because that's one thing they always talk about in their streams, how they're pretty capped on resources on what they can put in the game. They can't really add any additional assets. They can only work with what they have. And for Valkyrie to be able to do what they did, that's like a big plus. And they even mentioned that they're pretty good at coding too. So it's like for them to lose that team to Sony, that's a blow. I was kind of shocked when I first heard that, by the way. Um Update 29. Uh yeah, the graphics, that definitely helps again, because we got to remember there are a lot of players that are still playing on the older systems. They're not on PC. They're not on the X and S. So again, they can't really uh, push a lot out there as opposed to what they'd like to do and what they're probably going to be working on with the next game. And the field of view thing um, is not as standard as you would think. Putting that in games for motion sickness. So the fact that they were able to add that in, that's definitely a good thing. Um, One of the other things that I always like to talk about too is like Undead Labs at this moment anyway, they've pretty much made a commitment to where they're going to keep working on this game until the next iteration comes out. So sometimes we're gonna get small updates. We talked about that. We're gonna get hopefully a couple of big ones sprinkled in there. But if they're gonna be stretching it out, some of the things they're going to put in there, they're going to be trying some things that maybe the community won't like as a whole, but they're going to try, test it out, and see how it works. Some things they're going to put in there we're probably not going to like right off the bat. So, it's one of those things when you got an old game, a 4-year-old game, and then you're trying to put content out on a regular basis. Because remember, at one time, they were trying to put things out every month or so. And that was another
Hmm.
thing we talked about too on Prime Directive, that
Yep.
how are they going to be able to keep that schedule? That they're not going to be able to do that. So at some point, they're going to have to slow that down. Just like with their weekly streams, I mentioned that as well. I'm like, how are they going to keep this weekly schedule? Because they're making itself accessible to the community. Community is going to be asked some questions. Some questions they won't be able to answer, and sometimes that rub community members the wrong way. But anyway, I'm gonna stop with. I see we got a super duper chat.
Yeah, we did. It was just a sticker though. It was by Drew. Appreciate that, Drew. Thank you so much, man.
We got Tor popped in.
Yep. No, I'm addressing the
Anybody
chat
else?
as you're talking. We're good. I've been
Okay.
typing, so I've been keeping an eye
Uh,
on and listening to you at the same time. This is what's good about not playing. I actually got bandwidth in my mind to be able to do stuff.
yeah, but that's as much as I gotta say. I believe. I should have
No,
been
no,
taking notes when Guru
I,
was talking because it's
I
like
tell you what,
he
Guru
was
blew it out the water.
he had some points he was throwing out there, and I was like, yeah, we got to talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You got to
Yeah,
have a yellow
absolutely. That's what it's
notepad.
about.
When Guru talks, you got to take the yellow notepad out, man. It gets serious. I I wasn't even ready for it either. I was like, oh snap, hold on, where's my paper? Where's
What
my
you've got,
notes?
what you've got here, Congrexes, is probably years of pent up not talking about this game, and now being given an open platform where I've got a microphone. Very,
Yeah.
very dangerous. Very
No, no,
dangerous.
no. That's actually good, man. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, I'll be honest. I'm hoping to give an open platform to anyone that wants to talk about State of Decay too. You know what I mean? That's the goal, and that's what I'm trying to also do with the chat as well. Is to do exactly that, to give everybody a voice, to give bounce ideas, and hopefully, in the hopes that Under Labs gets a whiff of this and they take some notes and get something outside of their bubble. You know what I mean? Because everybody has a bubble of a community that they deal with, and sometimes going outside your bubble, you can see things from a different, set of lenses. You know what I mean? And maybe even, maybe even make a change, you know, for the better. You know what I mean? When it comes to different things in the future, so that's the goal. But um, I guess it's my turn, right, Bunny? You're all done with
yeah, I'm
update
done.
29. Okay,
Yeah, I'm
so
done.
I'm not gonna make fun of Guru, but I have to. Guru, man,
All right.
you kind of cut the legs underneath me for update 29. You went over a lot of stuff. Now, there is something I do want to talk about. Um, was it enough? And the answer to my question is anything is better than nothing. And I think you said that really well somewhere in the middle of the whole update 29 breakdown you gave us. I agree with you there 100%. I also agree with Bunndee that the PTR server is a great idea because I tested Field of View 2 months, 2.5 months ago. You know what I mean? So I already knew what was coming. The community knew it was coming. They just needed to work out the kinks and was smart because it wasn't shipped out that way. It wasn't shipped out broken in December. They actually took the time for a couple months, got it right, and now everybody has access to a functional field of view, not a broken field of view. So in that respect, I am 100% in agreement with you and Bundy when it comes to the PTR and how Under Labs is taking advantage of all the people that love this game. You know what I mean? And play it and do the things that they do. And also, I hope they're taking notes on a lot of the content creators that are
Well,
doing really.
not all the people, because people still crying out for them to release that on consoles, but we're probably not gonna ever see that.
You talking about the PTR? Probably not gonna
Yeah,
see that.
yeah.
There's too many. There's the way they have it set up right now. There's a reason why they can't do it on console. It's just they run a chance of messing stuff up. And the way Steam is set up just for that, just for indie games. So I mean, you know what
Yeah,
I
and
mean?
it was already set up. They didn't really have to do
They didn't have
anything
to do anything. They didn't
additional.
have
It
to
was
pay for
already
no.
there.
Yep. They didn't have to pay for no infrastructure. It's all there. I won't say that they won't do something like that for maybe State of Decay 3. You know what I mean? It'll make sense that they'll set up an infrastructure for the game so that then they start bringing in updates or DLCs. They can integrate the whole community, not just an exclusive section of the community. So I would
Yeah, some
assume.
people thought it was similar to like their game previews because they still do those game previews. Because what's that game Grounded? Grounded is still in game preview. It's not a full release yet,
Yep.
and that's the first party, Obsidian game. So
Hmm.
some people thought that it would be as simplistic as that to implement that, but I guess not.
No, I am 100% in agreement. I think that they will have infrastructure for their next upcoming titles the same way that Grounded is set up, and that the whole community will have access to playing like a beta style kind of thing, so they can also test out and get their inputs in. Right now, the way it's set up, it's kind of like I want to say like an only exclusive amount of people that have a capable PC, and that they have a second copy of the game to be able to play it on PC, yeah, unless you already pre-bought it on Steam, which a lot of us didn't. A lot of us bought it from the Microsoft store because that's where it was available to buy when
Yeah.
the game first came out. So, but yeah, I think in the future that will probably change. It'll probably be smarter of them to do. More input is better than no input. You know what I mean? So, and definitely better than just a little bit of the input. But update 29 for me, I already pre-tested a lot of the functions. The thing that caught me off guard was what happened with Valkyrie, and we did have a really deep conversation on one of our card pools a few weeks ago about this. And I'm not gonna get into it because I think it's I think on their labs and Microsoft missed a golden opportunity to keep a company. They're also responsible for weapon swapping, right? If I remember
I
right.
Were
don't,
they?
I don't
I,
think so.
they're not. They're
But
just. They're just responsible for the
Uh,
for
yeah,
the
initially
for.
they were like adding because they did like the lighting. They did that. They added like the fire barrels and stuff like that. That was part of lighting and stuff. They did that initially, but
Hmm.
as
yeah.
Brant mentioned in their stream when they announced that that they had lost Valkyrie, it said that they were, like I said earlier, pretty good at coding as well. So
I seem to remember that they did get a third party, and it must have been Valkyrie, really, to come in and help them with that because Valkyrie had done this sort of work on earlier games. I think you're right, Prime. I think they
Hmm.
did. They did do a significant chunk, if not all, of the work on the weapon swapping because I
They
remember
did.
seeing the stream.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did. I'm a good like 90% on them being responsible for us getting weapons swap. Matter of fact, that's how their first contract was
Mm.
to bring their expertise in to integrate weapon swapping, and then later on, they did some lighting work, and then they started changing things, and then next thing you know, we got that big update on Providence Ridge, and then from there they were like, hey, well, let's get the other maps also integrated as well. So, um, I think Microsoft, and I'm gonna say Microsoft because Undead Labs doesn't have the capital. It's not Undead Labs. They're pretty much owned by Microsoft. So Microsoft missed out on a pretty good opportunity, and something nobody's really talking about, and I'm gonna bring it to light, um, is that the Valkyrie got access to this game, so they know how this game works. They know the intricacies of the game. They know how how what the idea of State of Decay 2 is, and I wouldn't be surprised that somewhere down the line in the future, Valkyrie will come out with a similar game for Sony. That's all
You
I'm
could
gonna
be
say on that.
you could be right on that because, of course, State of Decay 2 isn't available on PlayStation, is it? It's just Xbox.
Exactly.
So there's a big
Exactly.
State of Decay shaped
Yes.
hole in the Sony catalog at the moment, which they could be looking to do.
Yep.
So yeah, good insight.
That's something to think about, and you heard it from me first, and I'm sure that's not might not be a concern for them right now, but it may be a door that opens up, and they know how this game works. It's kind of like allowing somebody to work on a car, and they don't really know how that car works, but when they work on it, they can improve on it. Go ask Toyota all about that. Anyway,
that's reverse engineering.
that
That's a big
yep.
big thing for businesses. So
It is. So that's just something for us to keep an eye on. Don't be surprised. Hey, how's it going, Lisa? Anthony C Live. Welcome to the chat, my dudes. And now that I said my piece on update 29 and Guru, man, I appreciate that whole spiel, man. You made my job easier. And so I want to open up this question to chat. I'm gonna take a couple of either questions or statements from anybody in chat that wants to say something about update 29. The floor is gonna be open to you guys. Hey, how's it going, Doc? How you doing, my dude? Welcome to the stream. And so anybody in chat wants to say something about update 29. Do you hate it? Do you love it? Anything about what Guru said earlier, anything about Bunndee, or anything that I said as well, you want to add to it? This is the opportunity to do it. This is why this is an open format, first ever Prime Directive. So
I've
what's
got
up?
a question. I've got a
Go.
question for you guys actually. While the chat puts some thoughts together and get some questions in there. One of the lighting changes was the night lighting. So we've moved, Undead Labs have moved from sort of like that really closed in jump scare kind of darkness at night which was really suspenseful and threatening, to a more Hollywood lighting where it's still dark, but you can make out silhouettes and you can see further in the distance, that sort of thing. Which is probably makes it a little easier to see at night. But does that kind of take away from the threat of the game? What are your guys feeling on it? I mean, there's pros and cons of both, but yeah, what do you guys think about that?
Go ahead, buddy. I'll let you go first.
I mean, I've always thought initially, I think Undead Labs thought that was a good idea to go with that pitch black kind of lighting thing at night. I mean, they talked about that like when the game first released the first year when they were streaming every week. Excuse me. So I forgot exactly what their thought process was behind it, but I think they realized that they could have done it a better way. And the way it's done right now, I think it's a whole lot better because you do want to see have some awareness in front of you and around you, as opposed to the way it was before.
Okay. Me personally, I didn't like the old lighting, like the old way of doing it, the tunnel vision. Um, I didn't like it because there were too many variables and too many things, especially at night, that made the game very, like I would say, make the game feel gamey. Because I couldn't see what's to my left or to my right, barely could see what's in front of me 20 feet, you know? So at any given turn, I could not see and run into something, you know what I mean? And I have no chance to react. And I'm not a
Oh,
fan. I'm not a
and
fan of
also
not
for
being able.
making content too, it's
Yeah,
like,
it's horrible. It was horrible for making content because
Yeah.
people would tune out of your night episodes, or if it went dark for too long, you see it on your stream. It just be like, brrr. It just, people come back when the daylight came because it's just you couldn't see nothing. So even if you turn the gamma up, you couldn't see anything. So I mean, if you're looking at it from a perspective point of view, like somebody just spectating the game, it wasn't a fun watch because you just had that little 20 feet of light. You know what I mean? And that was it. Everything around you was darkness, and there were silhouettes or whatever. But it wasn't to me. I wasn't a fan of it. Now that with the new lighting changes, I not only enjoy that more, but it also gives you the opportunity to share the game with other people, and they seem to be a little more receptive to it that way. So from a streaming standpoint, I like the new lighting versus the old lighting.
Yeah, for me, there was times when the new lighting came along that I kind of, maybe just because I was used to it, I was used to the old lighting where it was dark quite close. But yeah, I had the same problem when trying to like make a video with just being able to put something on screen which wasn't sort of two pinpoints of light in the dark. And I had to apply filters and everything and turn the gamma up, and it didn't look that great, to be honest. I think also as the spawns have increased and now there's more moving parts, you got more zombies running around as well. Um, Not having that field of that vision that you have now with the lighting made it especially difficult and sometimes quite frustrating because things would come straight out of the night at you. Um,
Yep.
it was kind of cool when you ran out of petrol on the other side of the map for the first time and had to crawl all the way back to base in a crouch. But even that grows old after a while, so I can see why they did it. And yeah, I'm comfortable with it either way, but I think they've made the right decision because it's just made the game a little more accessible to people. Because as a new player, that darkness was quite frightening, and I remember reading chats and the like of players who said, "Look, we need a way of just passing the night because to go outside my base at night is a death trap." So you don't want to cut half the
Half the
game
game.
out
Yeah, I agree.
with what your lighting is. So
I agree. And we got some comments on the chat, Guru. So I'm gonna go over them. And
yep.
Doc said, just crushing, enjoying, and haven't messed with the FOV much yet. Uh, Gaming with Tor says some of the graphical changes are sexy.
you could
Uh,
have left that comment alone because Tor just, Tor.
uh, at my main A Cup 4919 has my main question leads into update 30, so we'll wait. So yeah, okay, cool. We'll be talking about that next. Actually, that's the next subject. Um, Somebody else put something on here. Oh, A Cup does mention something in here about the moonlighting and how the moon comes off the horizon. I don't know if you've seen it, Guru, but it's freaking
Yep.
incredible.
Yeah, the
Like,
night sky and moon.
yeah, the
So
night sky, it's really close to what the real sky will look like, in total darkness. So
yeah,
especially when it comes off the horizon and catching on certain maps, it's like, whoa, the first time I saw that, I was like, holy crap. And that's all part
yeah,
of that, the new changes that they did to the maps as well.
yeah, and the light diffusion at the beginning and the end of the day, where the light just comes through the clouds near mountains, all of
Mm-hmm.
that. It is much more picturesque. It makes it feel like a much more natural environment. That's for sure. At the risk of self promotion, I did do a video where I just did a time lapse. I just did it for shits and giggles. Where I just did a time lapse of Mega Valley to see how the sky moved at night,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, all the stars slowly move across the sky, and the moon comes up. So
Yep.
when you look at it like that, it does feel like you're on a planet that's turning, as
Yes.
opposed to
Yes.
just a little
Yes.
map. So
They did, and a lot of people probably wouldn't even look at that detail. That's a level of detail that the game didn't have before that it has now. And yeah, I remember that. Um, let's see. There's somebody else that put something on here.
Steve said something about I found the game to be darker at night. I don't care for it. I have to strain to see.
Oh, okay, I got you. That's what I was looking for. Thank you, Bunny. And
Hmm.
I think that covers just about everything for all the
Well, that
comments right
that
now.
shows you also too how aware they were about the lighting, because the past few updates have all had some type of a improvement to lighting. Like we mentioned earlier about the candles and the fire
Mm-hmm.
barrels and
Yeah.
and even
Outpost
the
too.
headlights on the cars.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, with the night sky and the moon and stuff like that. So
Yeah, there's been a lot of things that have been changing. A lot of that I know has to do with Valkyrie. They were the ones who stepped in and did all these different changes, especially the aesthetics
hey,
of things around the environment as well. So yeah,
y'all keep bringing up Valkyrie. I'm gonna have to say something.
no, well, hey man, I gotta give them credit, man, because they did a lot of things behind the scene, and we're all gonna circle back to that. I think they're gonna regret it sooner than later. They're gonna regret that move.
I gotta say it. I'm gonna say it, man. I have to. You would think as soon as Valkyrie got awareness that Sony was interested in them, someone should have told someone at Microsoft, "Hey, Sony want to buy us. We up for sale. Y'all want to make an offer?"
surely they
That's all I'm
knew.
gonna say, and I'm gonna leave that alone.
Yeah.
Somebody had to know something.
I agree.
Unless
Microsoft own
Apple didn't
half
like
the world. They
working
they
with
must have known this
Microsoft.
was happening.
You
Well,
know what I'm saying?
Microsoft got
Unless
some
they didn't
deep
want
pockets
to.
too, man. They got
That's what
some
I'm saying.
deep
Something
pockets.
wrong with that picture.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave it alone.
Yeah, no,
Let me
that's
stop.
that's a good point. All right, so what we're gonna do now, since we're all done with this segment of the Prime Directive, we're gonna shift gears and go to what's upcoming. And I know A Cup has a question about
A
that
cup
particular.
spot on preach.
So,
A cup agreeing with me.
hey, I'm not disagreeing with you either.
I had to say it, man. I couldn't take it anymore.
I,
It was
I,
choking my throat.
Hey man, I'm glad you got it out, man. I hope you feel better. But I'm not disagreeing with you whatsoever. I'm on that team as well. So, and I'm pretty sure Guru won't disagree either. You know what I mean? So, um, let's move on to the next segment since we got all the statements and all the questions are been presented. For this one, we're gonna shift gears and move on to the second segment, which is the upcoming update 2029 just happened. So we're gonna talk about update 30. So update 30 is on the horizon now. We can almost just see it, and we all have certain ideas of what is on the horizon. There have been countless videos been they've been presented in the last few weeks, let alone the last few months, about what the speculations are and what is probably gonna happen. But I'm gonna go ahead and ask Bundy and give me the thoughts on what he thinks update 20 from 29 to 30. What 30 is gonna be.
Well, we're assuming at this point it's going to have the infestations. Um, and they mentioned that there's some things that's not in the beta that they're going to put in that update as well. So we don't know exactly what that is at the moment. Um, I I'm okay with the infestation thing because I always talk about artificial difficulty. I
Mm-hmm.
can't stand when a game puts artificial difficulty, make the enemies tougher and the character you play as weaker. Can't stand that. You give me something um like the way they're doing with the infestations, right? And we talked about that. You're gonna have to help me out because I can't get my exact thoughts on that. But I mentioned a real good point about the way they're doing that as like if you give me an obstacle, but you can, God, how did I say that? Like with the infestations, right? If you ignore them, the game gets harder.
Mm-hmm.
That's a better way to implement to make a game more difficult for people who claim they want more difficult gameplay. If you ignore the infestation, the game gets harder. You get more hordes, you get more infestations, and all that stuff. But you also give me a way that I can avoid that I can correct that. So if I manage the infestations, then I'm not going to get those additional problems. So that creates a different way to make the game more difficult without making it not say tedious, but without making it artificial. For me, that's just the kind of thing I don't like. But the way they're doing that, I can see why they're doing that, and I appreciate them doing that. Even though some people say they don't like it and they're not going to play the game ever again, but then they go back and play the game. I'm not naming nobody.
All right. Are you good with that, Bunny?
Yeah,
'Cause
I'm good with that.
I'm gonna step into it. Yeah, I agree. There's a few things on the table. One of them is obviously what we've been testing in the PTR, which will make total sense. That would be the next thing that they put on the table. There are other things that's been the speculatory what they're gonna be working on or what other things that they're gonna do, including something that you and Guru have made videos on, which I don't even know why my phone turned down like that, which is weird. Like, I guess they want to listen in too. That's what you guys just heard. Um, so, you guys talked about longevity, like being able to access your communities that
Your
are
legacy
that that, you-
pool.
that yeah, like your character pools, and being able to bring in like older communities that you've beaten the game with into your current community, or bringing in old characters that you hadn't played with in a long time as part of your new existing community. So that's definitely something that they're going to be working on in the very near future. And like I said, you've made a video about that. Guru has made a recent video about that in the last few months, and that's coming down the pipeline. But though I have not tested anything about that, it is something that the game developers themselves have been talking about. Now, one thing is that one of them kind of slipped up on the last stream and talked about environmental stealth mechanics coming to State of Decay 2, which was already something that State of Decay 1 had.
Mm-hmm.
So he talked about that, and I ain't gonna throw him under the bus because I think he messed up. But I mean, hey, we're human, we make mistakes, and I hope they're not mad at him about it. But it does give me a little food for thought because I've been having some issues with update 29 in terms of the stealth mechanic completely being broken. Zombies detecting me a lot closer than when I'm used to them detecting me, and sometimes it's random. A lot of things have been happening with the stealth mechanic. So now, like the bushes that I'm running through with my character right now, it makes sense for them to raise them up like that because now they're going to be part of the environment where you can use them to hide. So those are all things that are probably going to be upcoming, and we're probably going to see all three of those things be implemented sometime this year. Is it going to be something Update 30 is going to be part of? The answer is probably yes. And we're probably going to get something big before the year's over with, I would assume as well. So
Yeah,
Um,
maybe those breakable fences messed up the stealth mechanics.
well, I think the breakable fences actually broke the vaulting. You know, when you vault over them.
Uh-huh.
Some of them, when you vault over them, you break stealth. You just stand up,
Mm.
and it's not something that I'm used to as a player. Where when I vault over a fence and I'm in the stealth position, I vault over and you're back into the stealth position. Now you have to be mindful that you can break stealth by vaulting, and you have to be ready to go into stealth position or really put yourself in a pickle. You know what I mean? And there's no rhyme or reason for that, because sometimes the fence right next to it vaults fine, but the one just 20 feet, from it, you can't, vault correctly over it, or not vault over it at all. So those are
Yeah, that's a true thing, man. You know, when they talk about, because they say that a lot too, and you'll hear other game developers talking about that. When you make big changes in the game, you always have the risk of messing something else up. Now, I mean, I've never made a game, but I used to mess with mods a lot, and that's one thing you always do. Like when you put a mod in, you put in one at a time, because you start putting in a bunch of mods, and then you break the game. You don't know how you broke the game, and then you got to start over from scratch. So
hmm
there's a lot of times when you put something in, it breaks something else. So
no, yeah, definitely. So I've noticed those things from the PTR, and I was gonna make a video about the glitches that I've encountered, kind of like I did a glitch report back in update 28, and I made a
yeah,
video and they corrected. What was interesting enough, almost every single thing that I pointed out to them on that video, they corrected. It's been fixed. So maybe they are looking. I don't know.
well,
but
that's supposed to be what the feedback is for. You know,
yeah. So I mean,
somebody's supposed to be looking at that.
no, they are, because they fixed it. They fixed everything that I pointed out in the video, from the infestation bug glitch to a bunch of other things that were broken that I pointed out to them, and I made a report, and I made that video specifically to give them a point of reference. You know what I mean? and
Right.
and and they fixed it. So I mean, in the last update, they pretty much corrected a lot of those issues. So I was pretty amazed at that. But enough for me. Guru, is your turn, man. Update 29 to 30. What do you think is upcoming?
So update 30, I've just got a gut feel that they're going to go big and give people something that they've been asking for quite a while. If you'd asked me like 6 months ago what I thought was coming, I would have said a new game mode. But I don't think it's going to be quite that size. I don't think we'll see a new game mode or anything like that. But I think they'll start addressing the forever um, uh, community out there of players who like to have their legacy survivors and keep them. I think what they'll probably look to drop is when you complete a legacy with a community, you get the option of whether you want to retire them to the legacy pool or keep playing. I think that's something which they might be able to do, and I think they may also introduce being able to access a legacy pool during the game. Now, the way I think that they'll start with that is similar to how you recruit a red talon, and that you radio call in and someone from your legacy pool turns up. It's pretty clunky, but we've seen some evidence of that in the radio calls, in the development menu and stuff like that. I don't think that'll be the end solution. I think they'll look to develop some way of accessing and selecting members, but I think they may release a way that you can get them in at least randomly, or let you cycle through, say, someone bring in 3 legacy survivors and you recruit one of them and the other 2 run off or whatever. But I think that's what they'll be looking to do. When I was talking about Undead Labs update 30 a while ago, 2 comments which were thumbed up in the comments to the top pretty quickly were around the legacy pool, and the other one was around outposts and developing outposts further. And one of the production directors, I think he was saying that they're looking to introduce either mines or maybe a sniper or something like that at outposts in order to help defend them against the infestations, to give the players another tool of which to battle against the infestation hordes when they come. And so I think they'll be looking in those two areas in terms of what they want to introduce to the State of Decay player community.
I
I
agree.
also think it's interesting that they keep looking back to State of Decay 1 for enhancements for State of Decay 2.
That is very interesting. And it's a point that Bundy and myself have made a long time ago too, when we talked about the how State of Decay 2 is it's almost like a cookie cut version of State of Decay 1, except all the things that made State of Decay 1 State of Decay 1. You know what I mean? And now all
Yeah.
that stuff is being brought into State of Decay 2, like the outpost defense mechanism to put mines, or let's say put snipers. Sniper will be new, but still a defense mechanism where you can use your community's uh, manpower to or workforce, I guess is a better word, to supplement a defense perimeter for that particular outpost. You know what I mean? So that it'll be a sniper up there, or like you said, the mines, or maybe the option to have both. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But
And
another thing I say too is like when you think about how some of these franchise have worked in the past,
hmm
they make a game, and then the game is popular, and then the second game they'll end up doing some of the things that they wanted to do in the first game but didn't do, and then they'll
hmm
leave some of that stuff out. And
yeah,
then the third game, they try to put in what the community liked about the first and the second game and the third game. The
yeah.
issue now is that they they're constantly adding stuff in the two. So it's like there's some things that they don't want to leave on the board anymore. Like, man, we got to save that for three, but we need content for two. And if they're going to keep stretching that stuff out, that we're going to end up getting stuff that probably they would have saved for three. You
Now
know,
we talked about this a long time ago too, so I'm gonna just rehash it a
yeah.
little bit. I've always said that State of Decay 2 is a platform for State of Decay 3, right? I think I said this from the very first Prime Directive we had back in the day, and I said that all these assets, right? If you listen to the breadcrumbs, if you listen to what they're saying, they said something two streams ago, and I was like smiling because they're kind of referring to something. When Valkyrie took over the game to fix the trees and to fix the foliage and to fix the rocks and everything that we have on the older maps, they said we had to downgrade our assets from the new Unreal to the old Unreal, because this game is on an older Unreal engine, so that we
I
can
remember
put
that.
it in State of Decay 2. So what are they downgrading from? They're downgrading from the game that they're currently working on. And I started smiling because I mentioned that a year ago, and some people were like, Prime, you out of your mind. They're not gonna reuse assets or whatever. I'm like, bro, they're testing what works and what doesn't work. And obviously they want to make the best possible game possible. And the only way to do that is through trial and error. And they know what works because they have Matrix. They know exactly what guns people use. They know what kind of maps people enjoy. They know what missions get completed the most. They have all access to all of this. So it only makes sense that if they're paying attention to the data and they're collecting the data for a reason, is to what they're gonna do next. It's valuable. You know what I mean? It's a valuable tool. So I know that it's just a matter of time, but I cannot wait for them to start unveiling State of Decay 3 so that some of the stuff that was a crazy idea 2 years ago will come to fruition. You know what I mean? And I think it'll be funny when we see that happen. It'll be interesting. So um, those assets, like you said, Bunny, it's what it's gonna be. Now they're using some of the State of Decay 1 stuff and bringing it to 2, which is cool. Some of the cooler stuff needs to come back. Some of the siege mechanics. A Cup just put a really good statement. He put two questions, and I pinned one of them so I don't forget it. And it's on the
Hmm.
chat right now. And he's talking about how infestations are gonna work. Let's say for update 30. We don't know if it's gonna come out in update 30 A Cup, but I'm taking a wild guess is that we had FOV sliders last update on the PTR. Update 28, but they didn't come out. It came out now in update 29. So I'm guessing we're testing infestations and in update 29, I guess, to 20 to 30. So it's a possibility we'll see it in the next few months. That being the case, go ahead, buddy.
No, I was just gonna say what probably is gonna happen is they're aiming for it to come out in 30. What's gonna determine now is when 30 is gonna come out. So if it's ready
Yeah.
to go, that's gonna determine the actual date that we're gonna get it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
Exactly. So I think when it comes to infestations, if I was reading into what I saw, because they leave little, but Undead Labs either does this intentionally, so that we could start speculating on stuff, or somebody's always messing up. You know what I mean? It's one or the other. But they leave breadcrumbs on all their betas. It's like they left some tool tips up, and it's like, wait a minute, why? I made a video about that. Why they have this here, and they're talking about the growth of, infestations and plague heart. You know what I mean? Why they're talking about regrowing plague hearts as well. Is that a mechanic that's going to happen? I don't know. I haven't tested it, but it's definitely was on that tooltip. You know what I mean? When you do PTR at the time, that was there. I took that from the game, and I had live footage to prove it as well. So, and I talked about it one of the PTR beta tests that I did for the infestations as well. So it's there. Are they going to implement better timers or change the timing on infestations? Probably. They're going to keep tweaking that. A cup. Also, you put on there, are they going to make plague hearts spawn up hordes of plague zombies? I'm pretty sure that is a possibility. But the other thing as well is they're going to probably use infestations that sit there for too long can probably turn into plague hearts. That would be an added function. Now,
Yeah.
That will be an added layer of difficulty because now if you ignore them, you're like, oh, what's the worst thing can happen? They're just going to spawn up more zombies. And it's like, no, man, now you're going to have to deal with another plague heart. You know what I mean? And the intensity of the zombie spawns and everything is also going to increase because, you have that much plague territory in by you. So, I mean, there should be a cascading effect. There should be a cause and effect. And I'm with you. I don't like superficial difficulties. I like mechanics that make the game difficult.
Right. Because if you would have asked me that question in year one, I'd have been like, nah, I don't want that. When I clear the plague hearts, I want to be done with it. But then if you're staying on the map for whatever reason, you don't move to another map and you still got infestations popping up, there should be a mechanic where the plague hearts come back. And again, that's something that you can deal with if you keep the infestations down, so it's not egregious in that way. And that's something I can get behind.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm gonna open up the chat. You're done, right, Guru? I'm sorry if I cut you. I didn't cut you off, right?
Let me say
Yeah,
one more thing though. Guru mentioned about the legacy pool. I put that in the video I made way back when. There's two easy way, and I'm saying easy because to me it doesn't take any. The resources are already there that they can tap into. The UI, all they got to do is finagle the UI. They can use the radio call, and or they could use the command center. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
So,
what you gonna say,
I
Guru?
think the command center would probably be a nicer way to do it. But anyway.
Yeah, I was just going to say that about the infestations. I agree with you guys on having them engageable in a way. Like if you took the infestation update, which is coming out, where infestations grow and they spawn hordes and they seed other infestations and they may trigger sieges, etc. It gives the player an entry point into dealing with that problem. And the same thing with the outposts. If you can fortify them in some sort of way, expend labor or whatever mechanic they use in order to invest that, you're suddenly getting the player involved in different parts of the map directly, in different parts of the game directly. So it brings the player more involved in the world around them, which I think can only be a good thing. Now I'll put my State of Decay 1 bias hat on. That's my background. So I love it. And play carts, are secondary to me when I personally play State of Decay 2. I just love the experience of being in that environment where there are consequences for your actions, and when you if you destroy an infestation, there's a consequence, and if you don't, if you let the infestations get out of hand, there's a consequence, and it's really up to you to determine what that consequence is by your actions. So the more that the game can give that player agency, the better. And that's my only hesitation around the whole infestations turn back into play carts thing is that just going a little bit too far where you're pushing those back, throwing those back into the face of the player a little bit if things do get a little bit out of control? Or is it something which can be, say, introduced on harder difficulty levels like Nightmare and Lethal, but not on other levels? I think it's potentially something which could divide the community a little bit. But in saying that, we've been talking about how good Undead Labs is at listening to their people and how good they are at data mining and the like. So I think if they do test it, they'll get some pretty good feedback about whether to apply it and how to apply it. And a good example of that was the Tracer Fire. Some people loved it, some people hated it. That hate-love situation is not good enough for Undead Labs to release something out to the community. Either you can turn it off or turn it on, then we might see it. But I don't think they want those I don't think they want anything too divisive out there. And I think the closest they got to that they've pushed out so far has been the Plague Territories, which, stopped Plagueheart cheesing mainly, but it also had a lot of other ancillary effects on how people played the game. And this infestation point is another way that it's kind of pushing the player into the game and making them adjust. So they've just got to be careful how many times they do that and how strongly they push that player into engaging with that part of the game.
You hit the nail on the head. The reason the Plague Territories even exist is not because any player asked for it. It's because they wanted a way to stop people from using the outpost mechanic, the circles of trust method to stop the spawn rates of the plague hearts. I agree. I'm not disagreeing. Now, was that a controversial thing at the time? I would say maybe. But at the end of the day, Guru, I think it improved the game because it forced people to play the game the way the developers wanted that encounter to be played.
I agree. I agree. I was a little uncertain at the time, but over time, having played in that environment, I'm 100% in agreement with you.
And then you have
what they did is they actually came up with a smart way of doing that, because it's a gameplay element, and it because they could have cheesed the way to stop you from cheesing, so they could have used cheat codes.
Yeah, they could have just said you can't build an outpost here,
or if you do the circle, that just didn't work. There was a way. I mean, technically, that's what they did. They just removed the circle's ability. Because you can build an outpost next to some plague territory, but the outpost doesn't supersede the plague territory. But they're letting you know, hey, it's not working. You shouldn't, even attempt this because it's not going to happen. The plague territory is still there. There are some outposts that you can take at the very edge of plague territory that the circle shoot circumference of heart, and it doesn't. So they've been pretty slick about it, and I'm not in disagreeing whatsoever. Now, if you have an ever-evolving enemy, right, and you want to play this game forever, right? That's what everybody wants to do. This is the whole incorporation of being able to draw from your legacy pool, from being able to have a forever community, for even existing in one map altogether. Then your enemy has to be also evolving, also changing, and always pressing on the attack. Because that's the whole point of, like, let's say an engagement, let's say a war, let's say a hostile takeover. The enemy is going to keep pushing the enemy line, and you either push them back to the point you defeat them completely, or they continue to develop weapons, to develop whatever it is that they're gonna develop. You know what I mean? In this case, it's zombies, right? And the resources are gonna, be pushed on, and they're gonna continue to evolve, and they're gonna continue to push the line. That's what they want. So if they want the zombies to feel like an enemy, like something that's threatening to you, then the board has to change. If you ignore them, they're gonna take more territory from you. If you resist them, you take that territory back. So let's say an infestation turns into a heart. To me, and that also turns into plague territory, which then eliminates a section of the map for you until you fight that enemy. To me, that's kind of like what everybody wants, right? That's what that I mean, am I crazy? Doesn't everybody want this game to, let's say, have longevity? You want the game to play forever. What better way than to do it that way? I guess that's a question for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
So
As
that
long as
yeah.
they implement it in the gaming mechanics and it makes some sense on a level, then yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
so
Now, another thing I wanna say too, like who, what part of the community is Undead Labs listening to? Because we got to be careful too. And I'm not saying we as in the people that are here right now, but some parts of the community, apparently somebody is screaming for um more waves, more waves, more waves, because they may try and what kind of game do we want State of Decay 3 to be? Do we want a base building game? Do we want a
well, that's a great
community
that's a
building
that's a
game?
great question. I want you to hold on to that though, because when your
Yeah.
turn comes to ask the question, that's a great question to ask the whole community right now that we have on chat as well. We do have a couple comments that are kind of intertwining with update 30, and kind of want to run through them real quick, if you guys don't mind, before we close out this section, and then we're gonna jump in. We're gonna jump into asking questions. Let's say Guru and Bunndee. Like you just posted that question. Write that one down, and chat. Keep that in mind. Lock it up, because that's a very good question to ask, Bunny. But I want to hold on to that for a second. So uh, Anthony Clive, aka C Live, wants to see a system. Let me read this right. Where the hostels, like enclaves, will also attack your outpost, or attack your base. That is something that they're probably gonna be looking at in the future. Probably not now, and it may or may not be implemented in State of Decay 2. It could be something that they work on for State of Decay 3, but that is something that a lot of people have always wanted, was kind of like a feel of Walking Dead. You know what I mean? Like, you have Rick Grimes' group, and then you have, let's say, the governor, and then you have factions, and these factions are constantly pushing each other as well, along with the zombies being the component in there. But I think in all reality, the zombies in State of Decay 2 are uh, the front stage, and they're trying to make the zombies the enemy, and this is why they're making all these changes to infestations and plague territory, Anthony. But I mean, could it be something that they work on in the future? I will absolutely be open to it for sure. Um, and we have a few other people that have joined. What's up, Jonathan P? Because we have Anthony and Jonathan. Camille, welcome to the chat, my dude. And okay, so I think that's anybody in chat has anything else they want to say. This is the time to say it, because once we open the floor to Guru and Bunndee, they're gonna ask some questions, and then we're gonna be wrapping all this up. So I don't see any other question on chat, but that's okay. You guys can type it up in there, and I'll pin it, and we'll talk about it in between some stuff. So anyway,
Camille said something about bringing back the plague sickness
plague
from Warren.
sickness. Oh,
They
he's
should
talking
bring
about the
back the
black,
plague
the black,
sickness.
the
Yeah,
black, the black plague, the black plague. Yeah, yeah. I
hmm
got you. Yeah. Oh, and even characters being sick. That will happen randomly. Like, your community would just catch a cold or something, and if you didn't have the right meds, they can die from it. You know what I mean? There was that chance, which kind of sucked. I'll be honest. I wasn't a big fan my character dying because he got sick. And even if you
Well,
have all them,
the biggest
so
problem with State of Decay 1 was the fact that the game was
still ran.
simulating
Yeah,
while
in
you
the
were
background.
offline, while you
Yeah,
weren't playing. That was the biggest problem with State of
yeah,
Decay 1.
I agree. And they will always consume all your supplies, your building
Yeah.
supplies. It'll be like gone. You know, if you're like, what the hell? Everything else will be all right, but your building supplies will be gone to
I
zero
remember
every
that.
time.
I,
Used to
I, I,
drive me
I quit
bananas.
once. Yeah, the infestations in State of Decay 1 were a real menace. Once you got so many of them, when your survivors would go out, they would go missing. And if you went
Mm-hmm.
offline while they were missing, there was a good
They,
chance you'd come
they
back
were
and they
dead.
were dead.
Dead.
And I
Yes.
lost half
Exactly.
a community like that once. I'd been at the pub and got back a bit late. Thought I'd play a bit, switched it off. Woke up the
Mm-hmm.
next day. Oh, everyone's dead. Don't touch the drink, kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's one thing I didn't like. The simulation part. I agree with both of you guys on that. Um, uh, no, when you are in a plague territory. Okay, Camille has something cool here. No one in your plague territories until you clear heart in the areas. They had something similar. You were actually plague damage or plague. Your plague meter will go up
Increased
the
plague
long.
damage,
Yeah,
yeah.
they had that. They turned it off. That was part of the whole plague territory initially. I don't know if you
Yeah,
guys remember the first PTR. They had
yeah.
that. They also had increased damage from zombies. Like they will hit you and they will almost plague you out. It was insane. It got to the point where it's the way the game is designed. You know, zombies will hit you just for no reason. You could do everything right and still get tapped, and you'll go from 0 to 90% plague. And it was very frustrating as a player where uh, those little hiccups could cause your character. You know what I mean? So especially early on. But they had something like that, and I'm sure that if they can figure out a way to balance it so it's fair for the players, you know, that the player actually have a chance, then it could work. So, um, but the problem is it's the unbalance how unbalanced it was before. And my favorite was the pharaohs that would hit you, even though they weren't hitting you. Well, that was my favorite one. I love that one. I don't know if you guys remember that, but you would
Oh,
dodge
I
a
do.
pharaoh, and you will not register any damage. There will be no indication of anything happening to your character, except you look and you're like almost plagued. You're like, wait a minute.
It was the pheromones, man. The
Yeah,
Oh
pheromones.
yeah,
they
yeah,
did.
yeah.
They did that. They did that deliberately. That wasn't a bug. That was on purpose.
I think it was on
That's
purpose, but
crazy. Yeah.
it was on purpose, but it wasn't fun. It was something that would be so frustrating because unless you're paying attention to your bar, you had no indication whatsoever. And they retracted it and said it was one of them, the game devs on their stream said it was a bug, that they addressed it and they removed it. So, but that was I think you're right, Guru. I think they did that on purpose. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the floor to Guru, and then I'm gonna open up to Bunndee, and then we'll see what chat has to offer, and then we'll be closing up the Prime Directive, my dude. So go ahead, Guru. Go ahead and ask a question
This
about
is
the
my
game.
open question.
Yeah, this is your open question.
Okay. Take it somewhere a little different. As you know, there's been a lot of development of State of Decay 2 recently. And there's been more missions added via Trumbull Valley, and introducing Lily the Wilkinsons back in. Do you see them progressing the story further in State of Decay 2 in order to set up the base game of the base story of State of Decay 3, and what do you think that would look like?
Damn, Guru, why you attacking me like that, man? Well, you went on a full fledged assault, but you know what? I'm gonna deflect to Bundy. Bundy, what do you think, man?
I thought you were gonna throw out one of the answers because we talked about that again.
That's why I'm
Uh,
deflecting.
yeah,
Go ahead, I'm deflecting. Go ahead, buddy.
I think they're gonna do one or two things. They're either going to because again, depending on how long State of K3 is away from us right now, they may try and somewhat conclude the story. in State of Decay 2 and then move on to something different in State of Decay 3. Or they may try and move, because I think what they're gonna do possibly is bring up the Danford stuff. We may not see it this year, but we probably may see it next year. Because again, they got to stretch this stuff out. They're stretching. They're looking at what can we do? What can we give the community this year? And then what can we hold off and do that next year? And they have an idea how long it's going to be, so they got to spread some stuff out. They're going to give us some things. Maybe we'll get one or two big things this year and next year, but they got to spread it out a little bit. So I think there's a chance that they may be trying to conclude it before State of Decay 3 drops. And again, that goes into what the question I just asked earlier is like, depending on what the community is crying about, that's going to dictate what type of game that we're going to get in State of Decay 3. I don't want, I'm more inclined because they're probably going to put like more survival aspects. I'm okay with the survival stuff. But I don't want horde mode. I don't want more zombies. Doesn't make a better game because that's not the way State of Decay was initially set up to be. But you got some people in the community. The more zombies, the better. Give me more zombies. Give me more hordes. Give me more waves. And that takes away. And A-Cup can attest to that. He probably gonna say preach again, but that takes away from the base building. That takes away from the community building. That takes away from the getting with other enclaves and making friendships with them, or having difficulties with the other enclaves, making enemies out of them. And I think that's where they're going to be leaning more towards in State of K3, because people want more interactions with the enclaves, but they still got to have some core mechanics. Like I said, bringing stuff back from State of Decay 1, all the things that people like in State of Decay 2, they're going to have to leave that in the DNA of State of Decay 3. But they also got to be thinking about what's going to be the next trend in the next 3 years. What other games going to have that we want to make sure we got there too. So, and I just had another thought, guys. Initially, I thought bringing animals was cool, but I don't know if they're going to bring animals in the State of Decay 3. Is there a possibility? That's another question, I guess. Excuse me. Taken away from the interactions that we could have with building our community, building our bases, building our relationships with the other enclaves, having the additional freaks, the additional zombies, and then animals on top of that. I'll stop there.
But what
Okay.
about plague hearts? What about the actual story? Do you think, will we see plague hearts in State of Decay 3? Because if you look back at State of Decay 1, we got to the dam, and it was full of dead bodies and that sort of thing. And so the kind of inferred premises that's what led to, plague sickness and possibly the emergence of plague hearts. Are we going to see that kind of transition between State of Decay 2 and State of Decay 3 where they'll drop stuff out maybe around the network, maybe about RT and those faction relationships
I
ahead
think
of State of Decay 3. So when State of Decay 3 starts, you've got that as the premise for the game.
Well,
I
let,
think
let me let me add that if they're gonna take it, there's something else that I mentioned too that I just thought about it, so I want to say before I forget. If they're gonna be taking a more of a serious tone instead of K3, certain things they're gonna have to leave out. Because I initially thought Plague Hearts was silly when I first played State of Decay 2. I was like, what are these things? How are these things generated? What is this? And why did they put this in the game? I thought it was silly. So I don't know if Plague Hearts would be cool in a more serious tone State of Decay 3.
well, I think I'm gonna answer a couple questions in chat, and also uh, not questions. There's a statement and a question in chat that I want to get to, but I also want to answer Guru's question because I did deflect for a reason because I wanted Bunny to spiel out some stuff. Your initial question, Guru, about more story content being instead of the key two, I think Undead Labs is probably gonna lean on that a little bit. I think they're gonna want to put a bow on the story with Lily Ritter, and they keep pointing into something Camille said as well on chat that I've been reading. They keep pointing to Lifeline. They keep pointing to Danford. They keep pointing to that airplane that's down in Trumbull Valley, and the actual, I think it's called Dantron. I think that's the name of the pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
Um, they keep pointing at these things. These things have been there, and they keep hinting in something that happened, right? And how the zombie stuff got started. I made a video about the importance of that aircraft, and I try to use a little bit of my schooling and my aviation background to kind of give everybody an idea of what I thought happened on that crash
I think
site.
we're getting that next year.
But I think that even the quest in Homecoming, right? There are some quests that talk about Danford. And they talk about Lily Ritter being somewhere near Danford. They even said that in one of the quests. So, where you have to deliver some medicine for her, for with using. So they they even talk about that. So um, everything is pointing in that direction. Now, is State of Decay 3 going to be somewhere near Danford? It's possible. You know what I mean? It's possible that they're going to touch up on it. Or is that going to be covered in State of Decay 2? I don't know, man. It depends, like Bundy said, it depends how long we have to wait for State of Decay 3. And it may be
If they
something.
run out of things to do, we may, because we've heard we're not getting another map this year, but that doesn't mean we're not getting Danford next year or the following year. Again, depending on how long we got to wait for Cedar K3.
I
I
agree.
think
I
we're
mean,
gonna get some type of Danford stuff before State of K3
well,
comes out.
why would they be pointing at Danford? Why were
Yeah,
all the sites and everything and all the content that's in specifically in Homecoming, why would they be pointing in that direction? That's always been a question I ask everybody.
he said you're late. Sorry,
So, who's that?
Ted.
Hey, my dude,
Hmm.
welcome to the stream. Hey, he can be late, man. He's an MVP.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to get another map. I'm
I
not.
think
It could
so.
happen,
I think
but
so.
I don't think we will.
I think so
From
because
what
it
they
looks
said.
it looks to me like if SOD 3 takes 3 years to do, we might not. If SOD 3 takes 4 years or 5 years to go, you know, I think we'll get another map. We're gonna have to. There's no way that they're gonna survive on just giving us, an extra candle or something or some lighting effect. It's not gonna work. There's got to be something else. You know what I mean? To keep everybody, glued to the game because that's what they want. They want to make this game. You guys remember the famous and unfamous line that was put on a on an interview, and it was
Yeah,
documented. The famous line was, "They want this game to be what? A live service
they
game."
they need to come up with a different term for that for what they
Exactly.
want this game to be.
Exactly. So just keep that in mind when you talk about what they can or can't do in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Their goal is to keep this game relevant, and they're doing a good job at it, in my opinion. They are keeping this game alive.
For
You know,
sure.
it's on life support, but it's still alive.
They said
And
that the audience
Oh,
is
I
growing,
got
so yeah.
a few little things that they can add in just to keep people nibbling.
yeah, exactly.
That I'm not gonna say right now because never know. I might come out of retirement.
Uh oh. Nah, stop playing. You keep saying that, man. I ain't even gonna touch
I'm
up
just
on that.
saying, but that's
I
why
ain't even
I
saying
gotta
nothing.
hold on to those
I
things, man. That
I
might
ain't
be a good
even.
video. But anyway,
I'm not even. I'm not even touching up on you coming out of retirement. That sounds like a whole bunch of BS to me right now.
hey man,
You're lying to me too much, Bunny. Anyway, so that's what I think. I think that they're definitely gonna add more stereo, and then they should because in all reality, the one thing that State of Decay 2 is missing is story. I loved Homecoming. I don't know how you guys feel about Update 26. I know to me Update 26 was probably the best update that ever came to State of Decay 2. Why? Because they touched up on some of our favorite characters. They gave us a a lapse time of information. We found out certain things we weren't happy about, right, Bunny? Like your favorite
yeah,
base. with the tombstone. And
Yeah.
one of your characters, you find out that they're not around anymore. That something happened.
Well, the
Uh,
reason for that is because we don't really have any real characters that we like in State of Decay 1 that we can hold on to.
mm-hmm.
Heartland gave us that. That
It
that
did.
that's why I got so attached to Heartland. And then they're gonna kill them off? Come on, man. You know?
Hey, hey, man, you gotta sacrifice somebody, bro. You know what I mean?
No, no, no. You know?
No, no, I agree. No, but to me, uh, Homecoming was a surprise. I thought Homecoming was just gonna be the Trumbull Valley map. It turned out to be a lot more. A lot of cool
Yeah.
stuff happened in Trumbull Valley, and it would be awesome if we get a remastered version of Lifeline, and we also it'll be and listen to this, Guru. There's something to think about. They keep talking about base sieges, right? How they want to improve base sieges. What was Lifeline? Do you remember?
I remember Lifeline. I only played it a little bit. It wasn't actually. It wasn't the. I much preferred Breakdown myself, but I tried it. But it was basically a sequential timer on base sieges. So at the end
Exactly.
you had to basically just fight off waves and waves. It's kind of like it's almost like Daybreak. It's
Oh,
probably
oh,
closer to Daybreak than it is to State of
it,
Decay 2.
it is, but there was a prep time to it. There was an
It was a
opportunity where
prep
you
time.
you had to kind of like strategize how you were going to use your artillery. You're going to strategize what phase you were going to do, what mines you were going to put out there. There was a base siege mechanic to it, which was
Mm.
completely and utterly abandoned, even with Daybreak, because we don't really get to do stuff like that in Daybreak. So, Daybreak is just you drop some mines and fight off wave after wave of the zombie. But that actually you had to go out loot. You had to go out pick out soldiers. You had to arm your soldiers. You had to kind of like there was a whole siege to it. And me
I liked
personally,
everything about Lifeline except the timer.
the
I don't
timer,
like the game
yeah,
to
the,
move faster than where I want to move. Not the entire game.
yeah,
A
yeah,
couple of missions like that is fine, but the entire game, I'm trying to loot. I'm trying to get me some more soldiers to bring back to the base, but I got a timer on me. Now, if you can control that, again, like what I said earlier, then that's fine. Based on what I'm doing on the map, that dictates when I'm going to get a siege, kind of like what they're trying to course correct now with State of Decay 2, then I'm cool with that. But,
yeah.
not every 45 minutes I get a base siege.
Well, that's what they do. That's what they're doing instead of the K2. I mean, right now before the
I
change
didn't like
that.
that either. Yeah.
So that's kind of like the same idea. They kind of implemented a little bit of Lifeline in it, but I enjoyed probably Lifeline more than all you guys did because there was a timer, which I agree there should have been a better way to either eliminate it or pause it so that you had that time and you can actually enjoy the map. But in terms of like the strategy portion of it, I really enjoyed that. So you know, something like that. If they remastered it, or they bring it back, or they bring the map back, and they add something to it, kind of like they did with Update 26, and they let you see what the aftermath of what happened there, you know, and they can probably wrap the story up about the virus, with how this thing, kicked off, or maybe they
Hmm.
won't. I guess that's where everything goes down to. Maybe they won't. Maybe they won't do anything. Maybe we won't know nothing when we will go into State of Decay 3. So, but I think I said my piece, man. And Bundy, did I open the floor to you? Because we've been talking about the guru thing for a minute. I lost track. I want to make sure I got you.
I mean, I threw a couple of things out there. I don't really have
Yeah,
anything to add, but
yeah,
like I said, I brought up the animals thing, and Camille said something about the animals too. But it's like I don't know. I just started thinking about that with the animals. Initially I thought it was a cool thing, but that thought just popped into my head. If they're focused on the animals and all that stuff, will it limit some of the other things that I'm sure that they want to do to satisfy the community? Especially if they're taking a more serious tone. Which again,
yeah.
I'm not saying they are, but it'd be kind of cool if they did.
Yeah, definitely.
So
So
my background in terms of playing State of Decay 2 is more from a survival perspective than a wave of zombie perspective. Like you were saying before, Bundy, and what does the community want when they talk about we want this, we want more waves of zombies, or what do we want? We want lethal zone to be harder, but how? And there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. So when State of Decay 2 came out, for me, it was one of the first games which really gave the player a real agency in terms of how they wanted to play the game. And there was a lot of freedom in it. When you start layering in more zombies into it, you do put constraints on what people can achieve in the game depending on their skill level and their determination, particularly on the harder difficulty levels. And there's not a lot of interchangeability. For instance, if you want plague ferals, I don't think you can get plague ferals in your game unless you go full
And
game
leave.
lethal. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
that's
That's
right.
right. So it's not like you could have. I want, even though they've got those three sliders, and that's great. There's still limitations on what people are willing to put up with, basically, or go through in order to have that survival experience. So I think they do have to be really careful about how they do that. And I suppose, when you look at State of Decay 1, they had Lifeline and they had Breakdown. And both of those basically did solve for a particular type of player. Those who wanted, give me all the guns, give me all the top characters, and just throw as much as you can at me in order to, in a siege, and I'll show you what you've got. And then there was the Breakdown, which was, I'm starting with a stick by myself, probably being attacked by zombies, and how can I survive? Can I survive this? And I'd really like State of Decay 3 to allow for both of those journeys for the player, and let them have some agency over that. And from a story point of view, I quite like the story in State of Decay 1 and in Trumbull Valley, but to be honest, I've been trained to play sandbox now. This game has trained me to play with minimal engagement with NPCs beyond what I need to do to complete a mission. So I would love to see a really compelling story bring me back to following story mechanics, but it always seemed less important than where my next food ruck was coming from, put it that way.
No, I get you, man. The open sandbox games are cool. They have their place, and survival games are cool as well. State of Decay always kind of like had a balancing act of where it's sat. It's not Rust. It's not Escape from Tarkov. It's not Vigor. You know what I mean? It's it's
Yep.
it's not it's not Grand Theft Auto 5. It's State of Decay too, and you
Yep.
know what I mean. So I agree. It has trained us to play certain things, but me personally, I've always, like you said, you're a State of Decay 1 guy. I'm a huge State of the One K guy. I played State of K1 a lot because of the story and because of Lifeline. Not so much Daybreak. That's just me. You know what I mean? So there's a quick poll I threw out because somebody on chat said something about horses, and uh, I'm waiting to get the final verdict here. We got another minute or so before this poll ends, and it's a very interesting question. I mean, do we want horses in State of Decay? And I wrote on chat. Not all of us want horses, and I'm just trying to get some feedback on everybody. And I'm also gonna ask you guys real quick before we close this up. Do you want horses in State of Decay?
Do we want bicycles?
I want one. I want a mountain bike so I can run over a juggernaut with it.
Now I can
Wouldn't
bring
wouldn't
up
cost fuel to run.
Yeah, no, it just costs stamina to run them. And you probably have to replace, you probably have to replace the bike. I mean, repair it.
Repair kits. Yeah.
Yeah, repair kits on the bike. So, but what do you think, buddy? Real quick before we close this out.
no. I was just gonna say that as far as trying to satisfy as many people as you can in the next game, they just simply got to follow the same formula. And like I used to talk about what some people hated me talking about it. They say I talk about it so much, so I stopped talking about it. But the way that you add certain things in the game without messing up the core game is you just have separate modes for those other things.
Agree.
You know,
Definitely.
like multiplayer
Hmm.
PvP,
Yeah,
and that's
I
all I can
agree.
say.
No, no, don't go any further. You don't want. We don't want to go down this rabbit hole. I want to close this off.
And,
I don't
you
want.
know,
I don't want to
you
start no
have separate
fires.
modes. That's how you
Yeah, yeah,
do that.
yeah. You're
You
right.
know, people
Yeah,
that
you're
want
right.
horde mode, you give them a separate mode. It's a mode. That's what
Yep.
Daybreak is. So
Yep. Exactly.
split it up. And
Yeah.
the way to give people the story, I've said that too. Like with these open world games, what you do is you focus on the story initially. Once you finish the initial story, then that's where you have your RNG stuff comes in after the fact for the people that want to keep playing the game. There are ways to do that.
Yeah, I
They just
agree.
gotta get creative with it.
No, I agree. I agree with you 100% when it comes to that stuff, Bunny. There's definitely there's. I think if they divide State of Decay up into, your standard story, sandbox style game, survivor game, and then you have those components of, let's say you want to play horde mode, you got horde mode, and or you want to play it, just you go in with your character and you just survive. You can do that too. I think that would cater to a lot of different people, and it would definitely be a step in the right direction, because what I always say, more options is always better. Less
Yeah, because
options.
the initial story could be based on, you have a character and you build up a community, and once you go through whatever the storyline is, you deal with other enclaves, what have you, and then once you finish that storyline, then you have the economy in the game that you have to keep your base going. You have to continue to get supplies. You have to continue to do certain things. So that's how you get the RNG part of the game. You keep that going. But
Yeah.
for the people that want a story, you give them the story initially. That's the way you do that. So.
All right. I'm gonna end the vote at the 5 minutes, and this is crazy. 50% of the people want horses. The other 50 don't. This is crazy. That's a 50-50 split. And
That's a two-horse race.
yeah, that's crazy. I
Yeah,
tell you
I'll
what.
take a quad over a horse.
Hey, I tell you what. I take a bike over a horse too. But I tell you what, guys. This has been a lot of fun. I've had a great time. I don't know how chat feels about this format. Um, and I know I had fun doing it, so I would like to do this again in the future for, let's say, update 30. Maybe get maybe an extra content creator in here, a few other content creators in here as well involved, and do an open discussion format kind of thing like this for the community, and for for everybody to be on here, and hopefully have a good time. And if you guys watch this later on, don't forget to comment in the comment section below and leave your thoughts on this particular Prime Directive, and also on everything we discussed as well. I want you guys to also remember that Bunndee GameZ has a channel. That is also in the descriptions below. And also, my boy Guru also has a channel, and keep an eye on his content. He has a lot of good stuff that he's doing as well. And I owe you some gameplay, so hopefully we can get together and do that too as well, Guru. So if you guys want to say your goodbyes to everybody in chat, go ahead, Guru. You can go first, and we'll close this all up.
Well, thanks to everyone who's been watching. I've been watching the number go up, and a lot of engagement, a lot of good questions coming out from the chat. I really enjoyed, chewing the fat with you guys and discussing the game, because that's what brings us all here. So yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. I think the format's been great.
How about you, Bunny?
Yeah, again, as always, nice to be here again. Guru, nice to have you. Had some very good points, man. I wish I would have took notes because some things I'm sure after we finish, I'm gonna be like, I should have commented on that. But real good discussion.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I
man.
I I agree. This was a blast. Everybody in chat, thank you guys so much for your support. Um, this was a lot of fun, and I wasn't planning on doing this again, but after the show out that you guys have come out here in full force, and your comments and your interactions, um, this is something I'm willing to do again if you guys are willing to show up for it. And next time I won't be stealth mode with it. I'll start promoting this ahead of time so that you guys are not surprised by it like I did this time. Um, anyway, guys, you guys have a great day or night. Thank you guys so much for your support. Don't forget to check out the two people that are here, Bunndee GameZ and Guru. Vengeance, my dude, with the super chat at the end. That's his motto.
LV.
Go ahead, Guru.
I was just saying LV of I know Lord Vengeance from other channels, chats and stuff. Funny guy. He always cracks me up. He's
Yeah,
always got
Lord.
a one-liner ready to go.
Yeah, Lord Vengeance is my boy. He's been around for a long time.
Hey, Vengeance.
He's been a long time supporter of Old Prime. He's been around since almost the beginning. But yeah, I want to thank everybody that showed up in chat. Thank you guys so much. Stay tuned for some State of Decay 2 stuff on this channel and other stuff. And hopefully, will be some more stuff in the future. You guys
Bye,
have a...
Lisa.
Oh, snap.
You're
Lisa's
cool.
here? Oh,
Lisa
hey,
been here, man.
man, I messed up. I didn't see Lisa, man. I'm upset. How you doing, Lisa? So...
Man, I need notifications for when people jump into my chats because, yeah, I just lose track.
Yeah. Well, I started. Yeah, I thought I was looking at chat, and then I just didn't see her. So that's my bad. I apologize, Lisa. Well, anyway,
Cool.
I'm gonna close this out. This has been going on for a long time. Don't forget to smash that like button. Don't forget to interact with this video. Thank you guys so much for everything. You guys have a great day or night. Light, love, and peace. Congrexes. Checking out.
See you later, everyone. Kakite. Bye for now.
Buddy, come on, say something.
Oh, later.